Hi, this is James from Square Internet with another WordPress tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to build a WordPress form the easy way. So there are many different ways you can build a form with WordPress, but most of them will end up giving you a headache, and to be honest, they're not that easy. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you the simplest, easiest way you can build a form in WordPress, and that is with Elementor. If you haven't heard of Elementor yet, then there's a link in the description of the video. You can visit Elementor. You can download a free copy of Elementor, but you'll need a copy of the pro version of Elementor to follow along to the video. It's not expensive and it's well worth picking up a license. Probably cost you about the same that you'd spend on a premium form plugin, to be honest. And getting a copy of Elementor won't just give you access to the form widget, you get access to everything within Elementor Pro. And you can build your entire website with Elementor, so you may well start off building a form in Elementor, realize how easy it is to build your website that way, and then decide to build your entire site with Elementor. And if you did want to go down that route, then check out my free course WP the Easy Way, which is a complete system for building WordPress websites without a theme, lots of plugins, or a developer. And again, there's a link in the description. It's completely free. You can sign up to it. There's a ton of content there for free, and it will just show you how to do things the easy way in WordPress. But anyway, let's follow along now to the video. I'm assuming you've got a copy of Elementor now if you're still with the video and you're still following along. So I'm just going to show you the easy way to build a form in WordPress with Elementor. So I've got a blank page here open in Elementor. And the first thing we're going to do is search for the form widget with the Elementor builder open, which is here. And then we're just going to drag and drop it across onto the page. So the form widget has created a form element on the page, nice and simple. And the first thing you'll notice is that, we're in the visual front end Elementor builder here. We're not in the back end like you would usually do for something like Contact Form 7 or WP Forms or all the other plugins where you do it all in the back end, and it can all get quite technical. We're just dragging and dropping and we're seeing our form take shape before our eyes. So okay, we've got a form on the page. The form is inheriting the styling that I've set up already in Elementor, which is why the button is the same color as this button, the text is all kind of pulling in the same fonts, etc. But I'm going to walk you through now how you can set up the form, determine how it looks, what's in the form, and where it goes when someone submits it. So as with most of the Elementor widgets, you've got 3 tabs in the builder, one for content, one for style, one for advanced. The content tab, this is where you handle the content of the form, as you would expect. What fields are there in the form, basically. So, this is where you'd set up the data that you want to collect from your form, from your users. So most simple forms take the same sort of stuff, which is probably why Elementor has set this up as the default for when you drag and drop your form. So we've got 3 fields. We've got a name field, an email field, and a message field, which is all you need for a simple contact form, really. So let's just click on the field and have a look. So when we click on the field, we've got a few settings here that we can change. So type, if you click on this, you'll see a drop down list of all the different types of form field that you can select for your form. So this is set to a simple text field because we're just going to take the user's name, and that's a text field. If you look at these 2 fields here, the label field is what you see is on top of the field here. So you see we've got name in the field and name on top of the field. The label goes on top of the form field and the placeholder goes within the form field. So this is the placeholder. This is the label. So that's how you manage those on your form fields. Let's say you want to add a new field to your form. Really simple. Just click on add item and we've got item 4 here pop up. We can select the type. Let's say you want to have a file upload. We want to take a file upload on this form, like for a careers page maybe, or a job application page. So we can add a file upload field. And for our label, let's just say upload your CV and cover letter here. Let's make it a required field with this toggle. Let's see what other options we have. So allowed file types, I guess just leave that alone, because you might have people submit in like a Word, PDF, OpenOffice, different formats. We'll leave that for now. Multiple files, click yes, and let's set that to 2, because we've said we want to accept a CV and a cover letter here in this field. So that was simple. We've added a new field just by clicking this. We've just selected the type, we've given it a label, set it to required, and now we've got the functionality to accept CVs and cover letters on our field, which is crazy easy to do. I can guarantee you, if you're using any other plugin or system of building a form, it would certainly not be as easy as that. So I think that's crazy simple to do. So let's look at let's add one more form field, because it's really quite self-explanatory. Once you know how to add one field, you can add multiple different fields, and then it's just a case of selecting the type and then working through the options that the Elementor builder gives you. But let's add in a honeypot, which is a secret field that the users don't see, and that prevents bots from spamming your form. So basically, if I think the way it works is if the bots, when bots fill out a form, they will fill out all the fields, and if they fill out this hidden field which they're not supposed to see or know about, then the form knows it's spam and you shouldn't get the submission. So we'll keep that honeypot there. One other thing we want to look at in the content tab of the form is the advanced tab. So if you click through onto this, you probably won't need to use this too much with simple forms, but I just want to explain to you how it works anyway. So we have here the ID, which is important for what happens when the form's submitted, because if we click on actions after submit, an email is going to be generated. Here it is. So in the email that's generated when the form's submitted, you'll see we've got a shortcode here for all fields, which is done by default. So you need to understand what the IDs are if you only want to send certain fields in an email when the form is submitted. I can't think off the top of my head a scenario where you'd want to do that, but if you do want to customize the fields that you actually receive, then so you might send 2 emails, for example, actually. So the second email, let's say, is going to somewhere else. It might be like a HR or recruitment department. You might only want to send certain fields. So if you did want to send certain fields, you would grab the shortcode here, which contains the ID there. If I change the ID, the shortcode will automatically update. Let's grab the shortcode there and say, on the second email, we're only going to send names. But I'm getting ahead of myself on that bit anyway, so I'll come back to that. In terms of the content field, the other thing I want to show you, which is important for building fields and taking away headaches, is changing the way they're laid out. So for instance, the size of the fields and how many fields are on the same line. I know there are plugins and extensions, and people use all sorts of CSS and code to place 2 fields on one line, for example. So let's say you've got a first name field and a second name field. Last name. And just quickly, what I was doing there was I was just clicking this button here to duplicate the form fields. If you're wondering what happened there, if you want to duplicate something and then edit it, just click that and it will duplicate the field. So if we want to put the first name and the last name on the same row, set them both to 50%, in the column width. So I've done last name, just do first name, and you see they're now automatically on the same row. So the 2 fields are on 1 row, and it would be the same thing if you wanted 3 fields on 1 row. You could set them all to 33% and have 3. But that's quite a common thing that gives people a headache, is when they want to put multiple fields on 1 row. So often you'll want to have like the message field here, the text area type field, be 100%, because people will type in a longer message. So it makes sense for this field to span 100% of the row and to be deeper, but it doesn't make sense to have these fields take up 100% of the row, because people are just going to be typing short amounts of text. And likewise with the email form, you might want to have that on the same row with like a telephone number field. You might want to take the telephone number. So we have an actual type for that here. We have tel for telephone. So you might want to take the telephone number of someone. We'll do the same thing. We'll set these 2 to 50%, and then because they are coming after each other in the order of the form, they'll pop next to each other on the same row, just like before. So nice and simple. So now we've got first name and last name, email, telephone number, a message field, a file upload field where we can take a CV and a cover letter, or any other kind of documents that you might want to collect. And in terms of the label and placeholder, you don't need both of them. You might not want to have the label. You might just want to have the placeholder, for example. Or you might want to have the label but no placeholder. It's up to you. Typically, I think I would go with either just the placeholder or both of them, I think would be best. But yeah, I mean, you don't actually need the label, but I would recommend that you have a placeholder to just help people along. One other thing that you can do with all of these fields is change the input size, like so. I don't really think I've ever really changed them, to be honest, from the defaults, because I think they look quite neat as extra small, but that's to your preference. I suppose you can change them as you want to match your brand. Maybe you want bigger form fields if you are, trying to improve conversions or something like that. So you can do that quite easily with the input size, changing it from extra small or to medium. And there's another toggle here where you can turn labels on or off, just like that, which is really useful. And there's also a toggle for the required mark. So you can mark a field as required with a simple toggle like so. I typically have all my fields as required generally. I think the only one I don't have as required is the text area, because I don't see the point in having them unless they're required, but I know there will be situations where it would be useful to set the field as required or not, so that's how you do that. Finally, we've got buttons. So this is where you can determine the content of your submit button, your step button, if you have steps to your form. You might want it to say something like submit application, because we're kind of going with a sort of CV careers type thing here. So that's where you do that. And the final step of the content tab that I'll explain to you is actions after submit, which does what it says. What happens when you submit the form? What do you want to happen when someone submits this form? So most people want to receive an email notification or have the form go somewhere, email someone, you've received this form. And when you drag and drop a form, by default, these 2 actions are already set up. Collect submissions, which is a new feature in Elementor actually, as of this video, which is really useful, and email. So the actions after submit here, there's a drop down list of things you can click. So you can integrate your form with a number of things right out of the box that come built in. So, built in, we've got redirect is another really useful thing you can add, which I'll show you more on in a minute. But you can integrate with MailChimp, Drip, ActiveCampaign, GetResponse, ConvertKit, Slack, Discord, all of these things, which is just so super, easy to do. Because anything you add here, it's going to automatically add a little tab here beneath the actions after submit. If I click off Drip will go from below. But it's all done in the Elementor builder, which is just so cool and so easy to manage. But that's where you control what happens when you submit the form in actions after submit. And the main ones, as I said, are generally collecting submissions, sending an email, and a redirect actually. So, and like I said, when you add something here, you get a new option in the Elementor content tab pop up. So for controlling the email stuff, you get to determine where the email goes, what the subject is, and the fields that are included. I was talking about the fields earlier in the video in a kind of roundabout way, going on about the fields and the shortcodes. By default, all of the data from the form is sent to this email. But remember, I told you that you can control what data is sent, and you do it through these shortcodes. I wasn't doing a very good job of explaining it earlier, so there's a simpler way of explaining it for you. You do it via the shortcodes. If you just want to send certain bits of data instead of all of it, it says it here as well, I think. By default, all form fields are sent. To customize sent fields, copy the shortcodes that appears inside each field and paste it above. So if you just wanted to send the name, for example, you would just copy and paste it in that field and delete that field. Or if you just wanted to send the message, get the shortcode, paste it in there, like it says there. So that's how you customize what happens with the email. The from email I would just set to the same as the one that I'm receiving it to, but you can keep that as you want. You can even add a CC, so you can CC in your colleagues or other people to receive this form, and you can even blind CC people as well, which is really useful. And the final thing that most forms by default have, and I think would be good to cover, is the redirect, which is really cool as well, because again, I've seen literally add-on plugins and extensions for this sort of stuff, where you have to buy them to set up a redirect for your form, or you need a developer to handle that. You need to find a developer and say to him, when my form submits, can you add some codes to redirect to this page? So it's just super easy that you can just literally click from the drop down, redirect. So when this form's submitted, we want to collect the submission, we want to generate an email, and I want to redirect people to wherever I choose. So you might want to redirect them back to your homepage. You might want to send them to your blog or another resource, wherever it might be. Just put the link in there and you can then redirect them. I think that's so yeah, this is useful. One more thing we'll cover in the content tab is in additional options. You see I've just toggled on custom messages. So this is where you control the messages that display on the submission of the form. So success message, error message, required message, and invalid message. So the form was sent successfully. So this will display, you guessed it, when someone submits the form and there's no errors. So you might want to say, thanks for your message, we will be in touch soon, something like that. An error message, they might not have filled in a required field, or they may have put data in the wrong format. For example, in the telephone field, they may have put text or an email or something like that. So instead of just saying an error occurred, you might want to customize that for any sorts of reasons, for customization for conversion purposes, or maybe it's an e-commerce site. You might write, there was an error with your submission. Please check the fields again. like so. Please check you're putting the right type of info into each field. Required message, something that will display if the user doesn't fill in a required field. And the invalid message, there's something wrong, the form is invalid, which I guess is kind of similar to an error message, but yeah, you have the option to customize all those messages there. So that's the content side about covered. So the next step is to look at the styling of your form. So we've handled all the content, what's in the form, the layout, and what happens when you submit the form. The next step is to look at the styling of the form. So I'd recommend that you do most of your styling in Elementor, globally, using the global options built into the builder, so that your form inherits things like your typography, your color scheme, stuff like that. It will just make things a lot easier, but I'm going to assume that you haven't done that, or you don't know how to do that, and I'll show you how to style the form individually, because you may well want to customize forms on different templates or pages anyway. So built into the style tab, you have controls for everything essentially. The first thing here we have is the column gap, which is would be the gap here between the two top fields. So you see the space between the two fields here is increased because I've set that from 10 to 50. If I put it back down, I think 10 is kind of fine, to be honest, but you might want to change that. That's how you do it. The row gap, similar sort of thing. You'll see each of the fields or sets of fields is in its own row within the form. So the column gap is useful for when you have multiple fields in one row, and the row gap is the space between the up and down space, basically between the fields. But I thought that was fine anyway. 10. Label spacing is the spacing between the label and the field, so it puts some space between the actual fields and the label, like that. I think that's too much. Probably wouldn't really have any, to be honest. Maybe a little bit there. I'm not a designer, so what do I know? But that's how you control that. So that's the label. The next thing that we can look at is the styling of the actual fields. So we have many options here, so you can control basically everything: the text color, the typography, even the background color of the fields. Oh, so that's not what I wanted. Let's say you wanted to do something like this. I don't think it looks very good, but I'm just showing you how you can control the background color there, and then you can change the text color to sort of contrast, like so. I'll just remove that though, because I don't think that looks very good. But so background color of the fields, the text color, the typography, you might want to set it to different font. You might want to make the font bigger. And if you wanted the label to match, remember you could do the same thing, like so. So that was super easy, right? You know, immediately the whole form styling has basically changed, because the form is basically just labels and fields. And then we'd want to look at the button. So we'd want the button to match the fields. So let's say we're going for this big bold form in Poppins font. Then we'd need to do the same thing on the button text. I'm not sure if it will work because I've set all this up. Oh yeah, it will. Globally. What did we use? 20 Poppins, yeah. So now that font matches, but the button's a bit thin, isn't it? So it doesn't really match the rest of the fields are larger than the buttons. So we'd do that in the content tab actually. There's an option there, so that's a good point. If you can't see the option in the style tab for something, check the content tab, or even check the advanced tab, because if you can't see it in one tab, it's usually in one of the other tabs. but I want to make the button bigger. So I think that suits it better. It's more sort of the same thickness, the same sort of size as the fields, so that would match. So that would be how you do that. So that's how we can style the fields. We've already done these bits. That's how you can style the buttons. We've got the background color, we've got the typography, we've got border type if we want to add a border radius, text padding. The messages, remember we turned on the custom messages for success, error, invalid. In the content tab, we can control the typography of them. We can change the font, we can change the size, the weight, the line height, the style. We can make them uppercase, lowercase. And we can also change the color of those messages. So for example, if you had the form on a like a background color like that, then you might want the messages to display in a white color to contrast against the background color, which is how you would do that. And the steps, if you have a multi-step form, it's the same process. You can play around with typography, spacing, padding, and the colors of the messages and stuff like that. There's not much that you really need to look at in the advanced tab for forms, the easy way with Elementor. I think that's a really good video with a lot of content, and we've covered basically all of the main things there. But if you watch the video and you find yourself wondering how do you do a specific thing or how do you do that and it's not in the video, then just post a comment and let me know. And if I can, I'll let you know how to do what you're looking for, or I'll update the video to include that. If you found this video useful and you think this is a really simple way of building a form and you'd like to do things the easy way with WordPress, then make sure you sign up for my free course, WP the Easy Way. There's no catch, it's just a free course, it's a free video course, there's loads of content. You can sign up for free on wptheeasyway.co. Just go to the website, click on get instant access, and you can sign up. And there's lots of videos like this. There's a form video in there as well, so there might be some extra content in there in the form video not covered in this video for you. So hopefully you found the video useful, and if you did, go ahead and get access to that free course. And make sure you subscribe for future videos. So I'm going to be creating a lot more content on the YouTube channel for doing things in WordPress the easy way, and also lots of other things as well. So yeah, make sure you subscribe, and thank you for your time in watching the video.